Hello, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, we're going to discuss singles strategy. We're going to analyze a high-level college singles point between USC, University of Southern California, and Stanford University. Two obviously great programs and high-level tennis. Let's check out the footage. We're going to diagram it, and then I'll come back to the board and show you everything. All right, so here we have Holt, number 1 for USC, and this is number 1 Fawcett for Stanford. Let's watch this point in its entirety, and then we'll diagram it. You gotta love the atmosphere in college sports. All right, so we've got Holt here. He's got a big serve, right? So he bombs this serve down the tee. Now, when you are serving, you want to think in singles, you want to think what's called serve plus one, where you're going to try to combine a serve and a forehand. And we actually see him do this. So I want you to watch when he gets out of his serve, how he takes a little step this way. He takes a step to his left because he's trying to get more of the court to his right. So watch this. See this little move right here? He's making this little move. Now he's doing it as the returner is hitting the return. That he's not reacting to the return. He's just doing this on purpose. He's getting out of the serve and then jumping to his left. The reason for that is typically in singles, what you want to think of is that this rectangle right here is a forehand. That if you're right-handed, if the ball lands anywhere in this area, even here, you're thinking move around it aggressively and hit a forehand. Now, if the ball is hit really hard and it just lands like right here, then probably not in your best interest to hit it as a forehand because you're going to be moving back and you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. But if it's a weaker ball, absolutely any ball that is to the right of this yellow line should be a forehand. And he does that, right? He instantly moves to his left and he's making this a forehand. Now, let's look at the return. Absolutely love this. So he's going to be split stepping. So remember, you want to split step every single time your opponent hits the ball. So what's the timing of the split step? On a return of serve, you want to be in the air as your opponent hits. So there's the serve being contacted, and you can see he's jumping. There are his feet landing. You want to land the split step after your opponent hits the serve. And the reason, you want to land after they hit. And the reason is you want your brain to know where to go and where to send the signal. So you want your feet to hit the ground in a synchronized manner with your brain recognizing where the ball goes. So you don't want to land as your opponent's hitting. You want to land after they hit, which you can see he does. And when this great tee serve occurs, look at him stretching. Now he's a two-hander, but he's stretching with one. It's really important that you're able to reach over to your backhand side with one hand and block a return of serve, either down the tee on the deuce side if you're right-handed or out wide on the ad side. Now, when you do this, where should you be aiming? You should be aiming most returns down the middle. You want to give them less angle. Give your opponent less angle on this ball so that their next shot, they can't pull you off the court as easily. So here's a ball down the middle. Nice neutralizing ball. This is really good, actually. For that type of serve, to be able to get Holt to still have his right foot behind the baseline is actually a good thing. So here's Holt. He did his serve plus one. He did it beautifully, got his serve, moved over, and now he's going to hit a forehand. Now, from this situation, and he's straddling the baseline, he's got a very weak ball. The ball's got backspin, so it's just sitting there ready to be crushed. You should have the mentality when you are this player that you are going to hit what is called a forcing shot. This is just a shot where you are dictating play. So you either want to hit a strong shot to the right corner or a strong shot to the left corner, and then you want to attack. You want to move forward to rob your opponent of time. They're most likely going to hit a weaker ball, and you're going to win more points than you lose in that situation. Now, he hits this ball, but he actually hits a ton of spin on this shot. He hits this ball, he rips it with spin, and the ball ends up dipping inside the service box. Now, I'm not sure if he meant to do that. I would assume that he's trying to hit the ball much deeper. The deeper you hit the ball, the faster it gets on top of your opponent. The shorter the ball lands, it slows down, and then your opponent can run it down. But he decides to move forward on it anyway. So he hits this shot, and he's going forward. Now, looking at the opponent, the opponent's well behind the baseline. He's running off the court. Typically, you would think that this player is going to be okay. It would have been better if he hit the ball deeper, obviously, and I'm sure he would have liked to have done that. But by hitting the ball short, obviously, it's going to make it more difficult to be in this situation. Now, I want to talk to you about what to do if you are the baseliner in this scenario. So I'm a big fan of down the line passing shots. I'm a huge believer that most passing shots should be hit down the line. But I really like the cross-court passing shot when your opponent is coming forward, just because they are behind the service line typically. So there's a lot of room to get the ball over here. It's not easy to hit cross-court if your opponent is close to the net, because typically you almost have to hit through your opponent to do that. But cross-court passing shots in this scenario are actually a great shot to hit, especially the way he hits it. I want you to look at his technique. Look at his follow-through as he follows through up over his head. It's kind of like the Nadal buggy whip, where the racket goes up over his head. The reason for this is when you hit the ball this way is you can put a lot more spin on the ball because it's more of a vertical swing. Typically, when you are hitting the ball this way, you are trying to impart a lot more spin, and that's very smart for him to do. And why? Because his opponent is coming up. And when your opponent's coming up, you're trying to get a ball that lands in front of your opponent, so they have to hit a low ball. And that's exactly what happens. I'll kind of scoot ahead here. Look how he actually gets his opponent into a situation where he's got a half volley from below net level. Now, let's look at the server here coming in. Remember, when you hit a strong shot to the corner and you come forward, you need to split step. Remember, you're always going to split step when your opponent hits the ball, or I guess I should say 99% of the time. There are exceptions where like you're way off the court, right? And we're going to talk about that. And you've got to just start sprinting back, which we'll talk about. But 99 times out of 100, you're going to split step. So here he is split stepping as his opponent hits, and now he's moving over, and now he has a half volley. Now, remember, we're talking about 99% of the time you should split step when your opponent hits the ball. Well, guess what? He is not going to split step. And the reason is there is no chance that he is going to have to move to his right to make contact with the ball. So we know he's going to have to move to his left. So no split step in this situation. Now, we've got a half volley here from below net level. In this scenario, it is vital that you take all the speed off the ball and you keep the ball very low over the net, and you're trying to get that ball to bounce twice before the opponent can run it down. This opponent knows this, so he is just going to start to sprint. Watch the baseliner sprint for this ball. Look at him sprinting. He's pumping his arms. You don't see a lot of players do this. They'll hold the racket in both hands. They'll have their arms down. When you know that it is time to sprint, you're not a tennis player anymore. You are now like Usain Bolt running the 100-meter, dash. So he is sprinting for this ball, and it works because look at this half volley that Holt hits. He puts too much air, and he knows this, right? I'm not telling him anything he doesn't know. And if I were to play Holt, I would lose 6-love, I'm sure. But he puts way too much air under this ball. That's why you run. That's why you hustle. You hustle just in case your opponent makes a mistake and you can run that ball down. And that's exactly what Holt does. Holt puts too much air under this ball, and now Fawcett is running this ball down. Now, look at the little move that Holt makes. He moves to his left to bisect the cross-court and down-the-line passing shot. That is brilliant. He's now standing in between Fawcett's two shots that he's going to hit. Now, before I show you what Fawcett does here, I want you to look at Fawcett's feet. When you are running, and I've talked pretty extensively about this in previous videos, maybe in the past 2 to 3 months. When you are running, whether it's a volley or a ground stroke, you want the last foot that steps to be on the side where you're making contact. He is right-handed, hitting on his left side, hitting a backhand. Since he's hitting on his left side, he should be stepping last with his left foot. That gets him to run seamlessly through the ball. And that's exactly what he does. So watch, there's his right foot hit the ground. There's his left foot hit the ground right there, and then he makes contact with the ball. So this is something you must practice. When you are on the run in tennis, you want the last step that hits the ground to be on to be on the side where you're making contact. He's hitting on the left, so the last step is with his left foot. Now, in this scenario, Fawcett is well inside the baseline. So I mentioned that I'm a big fan of hitting passing shots down the line. When you are hitting cross court, you want to hit cross court passing shots typically on your opponent's first shot. And that's what we saw. We saw Holt coming forward, and when Holt was coming forward, he was still behind the service line. That's when the cross-court pass was attempted, but low, right? Just in case Holt could get it. But here we see Fawcett well inside the baseline, and that is when I am a big fan of the down-the-line passing shot. If you are inside the baseline, hit your passing shot down the line, you will win that point so many more times than the cross-court. When you hit cross-court, you have to dip this ball so sharply to not go through your opponent. But here you can hit it really as deep as you want to, and the ball will still go past your opponent. Now, this is really cool. I want you to watch Holt's feet and watch how Holt guesses correctly. He actually moves to his right, but it's too late. If you're going to guess, you have to do it so that when you guess, it actually helps you. You can see Holt move to his right. So right there, look at him moving to his right. And he's not doing it because he recognizes where the ball is going, because there's a delay in reaction time. This is actually a guess. And then you see Holt's racket go. Holt's racket moving is when we know when his brain recognized where the ball was going. But he's actually guessing down the line. I wish he would have just gone a bit earlier. Not so early that Fawcett knew he was going cross court, but early enough that it would actually make a difference. But there's the down the line pass. Let's see if the ball lands in. Let's actually see here. And yes, it lands smack dab on the line. In most junior tournaments, that ball is called out. But because there is, we don't see it, but there is a ref right here, a chair umpire. We can actually see the chair umpire here for the match that's next to them. So there is a chair umpire here, so he could not call that out. I'm not saying that Holt would call that out, but in most junior matches, 10, 12, 14-year-olds, you see that a lot called out. Even adults will call that ball out. Not maliciously, but just sometimes the eye can play a trick on us. And then obviously that point is over. So let's watch this point. Oh, there's the chair umpire right here. So let's watch this point in its entirety. And then I'm going to diagram it on the screen for you, or on the big board. Now that video was courtesy of Matt Lynn on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to his awesome channel. I've put his link in the description below. All right, so thanks so much, Matt. I use a lot of your content. So we've got the server, and the server using what's called a serve plus one. I really want you to take ideas from this video and apply it to your game. Work on that rectangle, that more of the back area is going to be hit with a forehand than a backhand off the return, especially if you bang a first serve and you get a weak return. So here was the serve down the tee. The returner reaches and barely gets his racket on the ball with a slice, and you can see him come out of his serve and then immediately move over. Now, he really didn't have to move much over because the ball kind of came right to where he was anyway. But in case the ball came here, that would have just helped him that much more get around that ball, because that's kind of on the line between the rectangle, which is a forehand, and the backhand square. So I thought that was really cool to see that little move there. That helped him. That's going to help him not just in that point, but in subsequent points. You got the returner. I'm a big fan of returning down the middle. I don't see a difference in double faults and missing a return of serve. There's no difference to me. I think a lot of players, they keep track of how many double faults they have in a match. But when it comes to playing, how many returns are you missing? Because to me, there's no difference. You missed your first opportunity to touch the ball. So on the return of serve, since it can be a more defensive shot, you want to hone in where you're aiming, and you want to really aim to kind of the center third of the court. Doesn't mean it'll always go there, but if you aim there, you'll have a little more margin for error in case you hit the ball a little wide. So we had a slice return right down the middle. The server had moved over, and now he's going to blast a forehand. Now, this player, the baseliner, there was really no need for him to guess in that situation, just because the player was actually here. He was straddling the baseline. So it's not like he was up here and he was going to have to guess which way to go. The server was far enough back that all the returner just had to do was wait to see where that ball was going to go. The server did elect to hit it to the player's forehand, but he put a little too much spin on it. I think the server would be the first player, Holt would be the first person to tell you that. Said, I didn't hit that ball deep enough. But we've all done that. And so if he would have hit the ball deeper, I think it would have had a different outcome. But he did hit the ball a little short, but it did pull the returner off the court. And we saw the server start moving forward, which is smart. When you hit a shot that you feel like you get your opponent in trouble, you need to go forward. Maybe hindsight is 20/20 and you realized, maybe I shouldn't have gone in. But look, at the time and at the moment, you did the right thing. You did what you thought was best, and that's great. So when you get your opponent in trouble, move forward. There are 3 times to go to the net in tennis: serve and volley, when you get a short ball, and when you feel like your opponent is in trouble. You should go forward to rob them of time to try to get that next ball out of the air and maybe volley into the open court. Now, in this scenario, I absolutely loved the shot because this turned everything around, right? So the first 2 shots, the server was in control. And then the next 2 shots, the returner was in control. This is where we saw the follow-through, that buggy whip type of follow-through like Nadal hits, because you're going to hit a lot of spin in that situation. This is what I call the 2-shot passing shot strategy. I watch most kids and adults in this situation, even pros, you see them in this situation, and they go for the pass. What they do is they try to avoid the person coming in. When your opponent is coming in, don't avoid them, especially if you're in trouble. Because if you're in trouble, you are defensive. And if you're avoiding them, you're going for an offensive shot. You don't want to be in a defensive situation going for an offensive shot unless you're completely off the court or you're losing so badly you just need something good to happen on your end. But honestly, like this shot that he hit was beautiful because he put a ton of spin on the ball, straight up the back of the ball, finished up over his head, and he got the ball to land here. This was brilliant. One thing is I like the cross-court passing shot in this situation. So if it becomes a pass, great. But and the reason I like the cross-court pass is because the opponent is far enough away from the net that there's enough room to pass them cross-court. If your opponent is close to the net, the cross-court pass is almost impossible because they can easily get it and then volley into the open court. So I like cross-court passing shots, if you're going to go for them, off of your opponent's approach shot because they're far enough back still that the cross-court is pretty open. So he gets the ball to land here. The server split steps and he starts moving forward, but he has to get low to get this ball. That's the exact idea that this player was trying. Now, he actually got pulled outside of the doubles line, which was amazing. And in this scenario, when you have an opponent who's got a low ball, a half volley, whether it's a low volley or a half volley, you do not want to go laterally. You need to move inside the court. You want to be running forward at an angle. That way, if the ball is hit deep, as he's running, he can see and he can go back to get it. If it's hit short the way it was, he can be coming in at an angle and then just keep going. And even if the ball is hit over here, he could be running in and then just go this way. So the way he ran in at an angle was brilliant. When you hit the ball to your opponent's feet, start going forward because they're most likely going to pop it up, and that's when you get to attack. So the ball was hit here. He's running it down. He's pumping his arms. He's using the correct foot. He stepped last with his left foot. That's the last step that should hit the ground before hitting the ball on the run when it comes to hitting on your left side. So if you're hitting on your left side, whether a lefty, a righty, it doesn't matter. The left side of your body, the last step that should be hitting the ground is the foot on the left side, the left foot. So he's running the ball down and he gets a backhand. Now I loved that this player moved over a little bit. That just bisects the down the line and cross-court passing shots. Now in one of my podcast episodes, I think it's like episode 105 or something, the 2-Minute Tennis Podcast. Check it out. What the title, it's a very specific title. The title is When Running Forward, Hit Your Passing Shots Down the Line. And it's because it's wide open. Most of your opponents are going to cover the cross-court passing shot in this situation. They are not going to cover the down the line. The down the line is wide open in this situation. Also, the down the line passing shot can land anywhere from short to on the service line to heck, even on the baseline. If you're here, if your ball lands on the baseline, that's a straight line through your opponent, and your opponent's just going to hit a backhand volley right into the open court as you're running this way. So I'm a big fan when you run forward, hitting your passing shots down the line, or if your opponent is close to the net, because the down the line passing shot is usually wide open in that situation. I was a little surprised that the server didn't guess a little earlier. Of course, he doesn't want to go over too early, because if he goes over too early, then the returner sees it, and then the Stanford player hits it into the open court. But I was surprised that he didn't move just a little bit earlier to make sure that it was going to allow him to actually get that ball. But it was a beautiful down the line shot. He painted the line. It was gorgeous. So I want you to take notes. Maybe watch this video again. Take notes. Let this have an impact and make a real difference in the way that you play singles. Work on your serve +1. Work on returning back down the middle. When you hit a strong shot to the corner, attack. When you feel your opponent coming forward, use the two-shot passing shot strategy. Spin the ball to their feet and then move forward. That's exactly what we saw this player do. And when you're moving forward, hit your passing shots down the line. If you work on all the strategies that you just saw in this video, there is no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.